Alright guys, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at the biggest college basketball busts of 2019. Now all of these players were 5 stars, a few inside of the top 10, and some of these busts are bigger than others. Some of them are just based on position with where the current NBA is at. But the first one, it is Isaiah Stewart, the highest ranking player I'm going to be talking about. He was the number 3 overall player. He was a 6'9 center, a little bit undersized, that was from Indiana. He ended up going to Washington. Washington signed a few different 5 stars in the class of 2019. You can see his college career. He was a Pac-12 all-freshman, and he also made an all Pac-12 team as a freshman. 32 total games, 17 points, almost 9 rebounds. A really nice year from Isaiah Stewart as a freshman. Now, if this was the year 2005 or 2006, I would guess Isaiah Stewart would be like a top 3 overall pick based on his pedigree in high school, based on his good freshman season. He was a one and done, but kind of being a tweener. He's listed right now at 6'8", 250. He ended up going 16th overall to the Portland Trail Blazers. He did make an all-rookie team, but you can see total right now he's kind of acting almost as a journeyman, 224 games, averaging 9 points and almost 8 rebounds. Not a terrible career, I will say, shooting under 50%, and you're a center slash power forward. That is really tough. Not a terrible free throw shooter, though, almost 74%. Isaiah Stewart, whether or not you want to call him a bust, I mean, if he's the number 3 overall player, I would say it kind of qualifies, but not horrible. Moving on to the next one, it is Vernon Kay. So I vividly remember Vernon Kay at one point in the recruiting process being the number 1 overall player, and he was on the verge of committing to Miami. He was from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He ended up going to Duke and finishing as the number 6 overall player, listed as 6'10", as a center, and he was a beast as a freshman on Duke, averaging 18 points, almost 9 rebounds, shooting 58% from the field, 38% as a center from 3. Just extreme efficiency, a consensus All-American, ACC All-Freshman team, All-ACC team. Vernon Kay Jr. was extremely impressive. The only year he was in college, he was a one and done, but remarkably, he ended up getting drafted in the 2nd round by the Charlotte Hornets with a 32nd overall pick, so the second pick of the 2nd round. And this is another tweener situation. The fact that he's listed 6'9" as a center, just not tall enough. And in the NBA, he's only played 37 games, averaging around 2 points and 1.5 rebound. And you can see with Charlotte, he only played 19 games. He ended up finding himself on the Wizards, and in his career, he has only started 5 total games. That is just another recruiting bust that's really just based on the current style of NBA play. I mean, if you're a 6'8", 6'9 center, it's kind of a death wish. I would imagine you have to wonder with Vernon Kay, it's such an odd career to go from being a stud as a true freshman teenager in college. Imagine if NIL was bigger and Vernon Kay decided to stay. I still think he'd probably go because nobody thought Vernon Kay was going to fall out of the first round, but that's exactly what happened, and you can see how his pro career has turned out. Moving on to the next one, it is Scotty Lewis, the number 7 overall player, originally from New Jersey, ended up going to Florida, number 1 small forward in the nation. This was a very highly regarded recruit. He ended up playing 2 seasons at Florida, 51 total games, averaging just above 8 points. Not great efficiency splits. You can see 44, 34, and 76 as a small forward. He was part of an SEC all-freshman team, and he was drafted in the 2nd round towards the end of the draft with the 56th overall pick by the Charlotte Hornets. Now, he's only appeared in 2 games. You can see very limited numbers there. Moving on to the next bust, it is Nico Manion, the number 9 overall player from Phoenix, Arizona, committed to the University of Arizona, the number 1 overall point guard in the nation back in 2019. He was a one and done. He played 32 total games, averaged 14 points along with 5 assists. His shooting splits were very brutal, under 40% from the field, 33% from 3, and under 80%. Not great numbers there. He originally was born in Italy and was part of a Pac-12 all-freshman team along with an all-Pac-12 team the only year he was in college. And as a one-and-done player, some of these guys just one-and-done players. Dude was drafted in the second round with the 48th overall pick as a one-and-done. It's another situation where you imagine if NIL is bigger, maybe this is a kid that decides to stay. He's only appeared in 30 total games, averaging around 4 points along with 2 assists as part of the Warriors. Moving on to the next bust, it is Kahlil Whitney, the number 11 overall player, was a small forward from New Jersey, ended up committing to Kentucky. Now, Whitney only played in 18 total games. He only started 8 games in his college career, averaging just 3 points and shooting just 37% from the field. He has not appeared in any NBA games. He went undrafted in 2020, and those are his G League stats at this point. He hasn't started any games in the G League as well. Moving on to the next bust, it is Matthew Hurt. Matthew Hurt was a top 5 overall player in the 2019 class for the longest time, and then a late ratings update bumped him down to the number 12 overall player from Minnesota. He committed to Duke. He was the number 2 power forward in the nation, standing at 6'9". He played 2 seasons in college, averaging 13.5 points, just under 5 rebounds per game. He did make an all-ACC team. Now, Matthew Hurt did have very impressive efficiency, shooting around 53% from the field and 42% from 3. He ended up going undrafted and has only appeared in 1 game, although to his credit, he did score 10 points in that 1 game. Moving on to the next bust, it is Samuel Williamson, listed as the number 19 overall player, the number 5 small forward, standing at 6'6" from Texas. He ended up committing to Louisville, and he is still in college to this day, so he is a 5th-year senior. I would imagine he's using the extra COVID year, and he did transfer to SMU, so you can see his college career, 131 games, averaging 7.5 points per game, shooting around 47%. Not the best three-point shooter, my goodness. Also a free throw shooter, 58% there. But you can see he did spend 3 years at the dumpster fire that was Louisville basketball. Louisville has just plunged into the abyss, and he since, I'm guessing, utilized the transfer portal and ended up on SMU the past 2 years. And then the final bust we're going to be talking about, it is N'Faly Dante, who was originally from overseas. He moved to Wichita, Kansas, and didn't go to the University of Kansas. He went to Oregon, the number 14 overall player, listed at 6'11", and the number 4 center in the country. A lot of centers that were ranked very high in the class of 2019, which is pretty surprising because if you don't know, when it comes to these recruiting rankings, there's a number of different services that do rankings. They do total player rankings, and then this is the total composite of where the players are supposed to be ranked, and normally they try and do it to mimic what they think the NBA draft is going to be, and I'm guessing 2019 was really the last year where they ranked all these centers and taller power forwards and tweeners really high because they're just not sought after when it comes to the NBA, and you can see Dante is still in college, so he's appeared in 87 games. He's been a little injured this year. He's having a real nice year, though, as a 5th-year senior, averaging around 15 points and 8 rebounds. Real efficient player. You can see averaging also 1.5 blocks per game in the extended stats, 5 total seasons at Oregon. So those are all of the different. There are a few other ones, but just some of the busts from the 2019 class that I wanted to look at. And I think the common theme is a lot of tweeners, a lot of centers in power forward bodies in the class of 2019. But either way, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.